In 1980, something unbelievable happened. The price of silver exploded. Not slowly, not gradually, but violently, from $6 to nearly $50 an ounce. Banks panicked, governments became nervous, and traders on Wall Street started asking one terrifying question. Who is buying all the silver? The answer shocked everyone. It wasn't a country, it wasn't a corporation, it was two brothers from Texas. Two billionaires who believed they could do something no one had ever done before, control the entire global silver market, and for a brief moment in history they almost succeeded. The story begins with one of the richest families in America. Their father, H.L. Hunt, was a legendary oil tycoon. At one point he was believed to be the richest man in the United States. His empire was built on oil fields across Texas. But his sons had a different obsession. Two brothers in particular, Nelson Bunker Hunt and William Herbert Hunt. They had money. A lot of money. But they wanted something bigger. They wanted a financial bet so massive it could change the entire market. The 1970s were a terrifying time for investors. Inflation was rising rapidly. The dollar was losing value. The United States made one of the most controversial decisions in financial history. The government ended the gold standard. Paper money was no longer backed by gold. To many investors, this felt like the beginning of a financial disaster. But to the Hunt brothers, it looked like an opportunity. They believed paper money would collapse. And when that happened, people would rush toward real assets. Gold was already heavily controlled by governments. But silver? Silver was different. Silver was still free. And the market was much smaller. Which meant something very interesting. It might be possible to control it. So the Hunt brothers started buying silver. At first quietly, then aggressively, then obsessively. They bought silver bars. They bought silver futures. They bought silver through brokers all over the world. Shipments of silver were reportedly transported across oceans to private vaults. The numbers became absurd. Soon the brothers controlled around 100 million ounces of silver. Let that sink in. That was a massive portion of the global supply, and the market started to react. When demand overwhelmed supply, prices move. But what happened next wasn't normal. Silver began rising. $6, $10, $15, $20 a month. Traders began to notice something strange. The market wasn't just bullish, it was out of control. Speculators jumped in. Investors rushed to buy before prices climbed even higher. Soon the entire world was watching. By January 1980, silver reached nearly $50 an ounce. The Hunt brothers had become multi-billionaires. It looked like the greatest trade in financial history. But behind the scenes, something dangerous was happening. Banks were getting nervous, regulators were asking questions, and financial institutions began to realize something terrifying. If the Hunt brothers kept buying, they could destabilize the entire financial system. So the exchanges did something dramatic. They changed the rules. Suddenly, traders could no longer buy large new silver positions. They could only sell. Imagine playing a game where suddenly the rules change overnight. That is exactly what happened. And the moment the rules changed, the silver market began to crack. Without new buyers, prices began to fall, first slowly, then violently. Silver dropped from $50 to $40, then $30, then $20. Panic spread across the market. The Hunt brothers had borrowed enormous sums of money to maintain their positions, and now banks wanted their loans back in them. On March 27, 1980, the situation reached a breaking point. The day became known as Silver Thursday. The silver market crashed, billions of dollars disappeared, and the Hunt brothers faced financial ruin. What had once looked like a brilliant strategy was now a catastrophic failure. The brothers were forced to sell assets. They were investigated by regulators. Eventually, they were fined and accused of attempting to manipulate the silver market. Their financial empire never fully recovered. But their story became one of the most famous cautionary tales in Wall Street history. For a brief moment in time, two men believed they had discovered a way to control the market. And for a while, they did. Prices soared, fortunes exploded. The entire world watched in disbelief. But markets have a strange way of fighting back. And when they do, the fall can be just as dramatic as the rise. Because in the world of finance, the moment you believe you can control the market is often the moment everything begins to collapse. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next story about money, power, and the hidden forces behind the markets.